Ah, hello, my fellow Scrum commentators. It's good to see you again. I guess now that we're together, I think maybe you could help me commentate on this game.
Unfortunately, the forces of Outward have kidnapped Edgy. We'll see if we can manage to find him back in time.
Oh no. Do you perhaps need some assistance in finding this character?
Hold on, let me gesticulate incoherently for 2 minutes before giving you an
Hey,
answer.
hi, Shang-Tsung.
Greetings, stranger. I search for experienced fighters to take part in a competition.
Wait, the tournament still hasn't begun after all those years?
Apparently not, Jove. Apparently Shang-Tsung has been...
It kept getting delayed due to the
Again, it feels
And
odd
yeah.
because remember, by the time of the first Mortal Kombat tournament, it was established that the tournament has been going on for ages, and Outward was around it almost at its 10-year kill streak in
Okay.
the moment.
Okay. I have a theory.
Wait,
Yes,
hold on. Tio, I'm going to say something so that you don't have to worry, because this will not get dated. It still came out before Skull and Bones did, that tournament.
I guess, in a way. Yes, Pedro?
Maybe what happened here was... the tournament we were hearing about earlier was actually the first of the 10. You know? And now he's recruiting for the actual 10th tournament. Maybe that's it?
That's the thing, the way the story was paced, it made it seem like Shujinko wanted to participate in the early tournament, but then he stayed to train with Nightwolf for like God knows how many years.
I'm guessing 9 years. That's probably what happened. Maybe they did this thing again. I'm totally making this assumption because the game never tells us. But
Yeah.
it is possible. It is possible that you can assume that the tournament we heard about was of course the first of the 10. Now we're in the 10th tournament. There you go.
Again, sorry, go on.
Of all the people to be willing to teach us his moves, the Sang Shan is
No,
one
no,
of the
no.
guys I would least...
He's not teaching. He was just fighting us.
Yeah, sometimes you just fight people randomly. No, but again, it's the weird thing about the game is the fact that he has this huge time skip where it tells that Shujinko just trained. We don't know anything that happens in between, like say, oh, that's the reason why he couldn't get to the Mortal Kombat tournament and he feels like he wanted instead. I don't know.
It has been my greatest desire to win Earthrealm's freedom from you and your master Shao Kahn. Of course, I am not the only one.
Oh.
Let me blatantly announce my plans to you so you can get to foiling them.
Again, I think I've already said enough about the dialogue.
Oh no, the dialogue is wonderfully bad.
Oh yeah, but dialogue is definitely what helps keep this somewhat enjoyable.
In this realm that escapes my attention, though I must admit I was surprised.
Although I will...
And now the element of surprise is lost. Good going, Shinjoku. Good going.
Although there is another thing I'll say against it. I'm pretty sure there was better dialogue in games than this circa 2004, and Mortal Kombat was a big franchise.
Dibs. There was better dialogue in games before this. Metal Gear Solid came out in 1998, and that game had dialogue that has completely hold up over the years.
Hell. Crash Bandicoot 2 had better dialogue than this.
That was 1997.
That was
Also,
like when,
sorry, go on.
voice
Hey,
acting
Kenshi.
in games was pretty much at its infancy.
Yeah, I also have to say this design of Kenshi is my least favorite in general.
He
Like,
looks like a rejected design from Last Battle. Oh,
it's like he's missing something, like a scarf or extra shoulder pads. I don't know. This feels incomplete in some fashion.
That is true.
so what are we
Also,
doing? fighting
Shujinko
against
got
this Knock
a
Rider
McGuffin
reject?
this big.
Okay, so now that we finally helped through Kenshi, he's going to finally teach us his Tai Chi techniques.
I think a problem I have with this story is also the sense of flow to it. Like, for as many years go by, you wouldn't be able to tell because it doesn't really feel like the world around us is changing so much. It's more just
No.
Shinjoku's model.
Yeah, basically. I mean, look at Kenshi, for example. It doesn't really look any different than he did before.
Yeah.
It also doesn't
I
help that time flows differently in some realms, so...
Also, let me guess. All of Shinjuku's different ages are different costumes you can choose to play him as.
No.
Wait, what?
When you unlock him in arcade mode, you unlock the oldest, how he is at the end of this story mode.
So, essentially... Okay, so what's his default then?
Well, that's his default look. Maybe there are different outfits.
I don't remember having checked, to be honest.
So let me get this straight.
Sorry.
They bothered to make all these different models for Shinjuku, the new main protagonist, and they didn't even bother to do the obvious thing and let those models, which you do use in fighting sequences, as different costumes to play him as, which could have at least gave him something unique in that he had all these costumes.
I'm guessing they're doing it for story reasons, because when Shujinko enters the tournament, he's already at his 60s. So it wouldn't make any sense. So from their idea, it wouldn't make sense from a continuity standpoint to have young 20-year-old Shujinko be in Mortal Kombat, because the Mortal Kombat tournament that this game takes place in is years after his younger years. So
I would agree. The problem is that essentially, though, it's essentially an arcade mode. Like, even when arcade modes have factored into the story of Mortal Kombat, they never seem to have really cared about what costumes you wear. Well, okay, except for some few cases where apparently wearing the different costume will, affect stuff and whatnot, but for the most part, no, from what I recall, the different costumes are just fine. So
but
it's such a weird.
It's like this, Jova. Let's see. In the new games, like let's say Mortal Kombat 11, for example. If you, like for example, how there's a pack to replace Sonya Blade, Raiden, and Johnny Cage for their MK1 1995 movie versions.
Yes.
With the voice actors and everything reprising their roles and everything. That doesn't work for the main campaign. Even if you had that activated in the main campaign, it still uses the original models with their default. Because they want this to be the canon versions.
No, what Joe is referring is kind of the opposite. The fact that, an appearance that happens in the story should also be technically, an alternate costume for when you play the game, or literally any other mode.
Again, the only thing I can say is that, again, from their everyone's logic was, okay, he fights in the tournament when he's in his 60s, so that we'll have that be his arcade model.
Oh no, Pedro. I get that, but what Tio said was pretty much correct, though. My point is why not give the option for all his different models to play as, costumes in literally any other mode that's not dictated by the story?
I guess, sure.
The Kool-Aid Man is red.
I guess. I guess I didn't think about it. I don't know.
Like I said,
again, I forgot to check. Sorry.
It seems like such an obvious thing to do. Like, the model's there and playable, so why not use it for all those other modes if you want to give Shinjuku something to love him up against all the other characters? Because, again, I'm going to be honest, so far he is the lamest character in this game.
Honestly, Jova argue in the entire franchise. There are characters who are right bad, like Suhao and Jarek, but there is some kind of entertaining or they're just actually bad. Shujinko is just literally almost a blank slate.
Yeah, and that's arguably one of the worst things you can do. Like, at least with a character that's spectacularly bad, you can make a wonderful heel out of that character to the audience, or work on redeeming that character, because some people might actually want to see him redeemed. When you make a pretty much middle-of-the-road, nothing neutral kind of character, and again, you try to show him as the protagonist, only to have him absolutely fail at that, congrats! People are gonna feel more that their time was wasted more than anything.
Mind you, Joe,
you could argue.
Sorry, go on.
Now, you could argue that the same effect may occur if the character is outright terrible, and yes, that is something you also want to avoid. But again, at least the character who's terrible can at least... okay, it's always this. Something that's good or bad always has more potential to be recognized than something that's just in the middle neutral.
Mind you, Jova, they still kept this kind of thing for the for stuff like the crypt modes of the future games, but to compensate that, the nameless character that you play in there is just, a leader who you're really not supposed to pay much attention to compared to Shujinko.
And
Hell, there
and
we
there
even
was-
take some jabs, like having, if I recall correctly, the character from the Crypt of X being killed in between games in fight Discord somewhere.
And then there was what they did with a lot of the characters near the end of Mortal Kombat 9, which from what I've heard was not a popular move. So much so that they apparently had to spend both games 10 and 11 to rectify those.
Well, they kind of played around with the concept, Java, all in due time.
Look, all I just remember hearing is that most people hated what they did to a lot of the characters in 9. Like, and again, I do get it. You don't want to become stale with the characters. But man, maybe just have them retire or have them just be off somewhere else if you really want someone new, as opposed to having all this terrible stuff happen to them on their way out.
Okay, see, the problem with that, Java, is that at the end of 9, the reason why what happens to those characters happens is because the thing has escalated so much that the entire world is at an apocalyptic stage. Again, it's recreating the events of MK3. That kind of way. So the option that you propose is inapplicable, for that very reason.
No. Obviously, what I'm talking about is in a meta sense. Like, why did the writers feel the need to go do this mentality with this one? Because again, outright slaughtering characters does not feel like the best way to go with quote-unquote
Once Mortal Kombat,
retiring
you
them.
expect death.
Yeah, let me put it this way, Jova. Remember, after John Tobias left Midway, John Vogel pretty much became the primary story head of the MK series, which is why. And when you look at his track record, yeah, you can tell why the reboot trilogy is the way it is. Because what was his first thing that he did in Mortal Kombat Deception? The Alliance. He killed Liu Kang. Now in Deception, we're also doing this thing with the new character and everything. And then in Armageddon, he did this entire apocalyptic event where everybody gets killed, and then Raiden has to reset the timeline to save everybody, and that's the lead up into 9.
The man has a hard-on for big world-ending apocalypses that kill characters.
To be fair, even John Tobias was guilty of that. John Tobias loved doing big apocalyptic scenarios.
Remember, Jova, the vanilla version of 3 did not have people like Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Oh, do not get me wrong. I do get that John Tobias did it as well. And yes, I get it. In a series like Mortal Kombat, yes, gruesome deaths are to be expected.
Yeah, and also remember, he co-wrote the story for Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and who was the very first character to die there?
Johnny Cage.
Ouch.
Yeah.
But again,
Excuse me.
I'm not completely against character deaths, but am I the only one who feels that maybe the shtick got a bit stale, like to the point where it wasn't just that it annoyed people just were expecting it at this point where, it was honestly more of a surprise when it wasn't done. And now, who knows what they'll do with Mortal Kombat 11.
I actually...
Wouldn't be surprised if we start off with, once again, new world, most people get killed off, but we'll find ways to bring them back, yada yada yada.
One thing that I would at the very least appreciate about that, I understand your concerns, but at the same time, I don't know, there's just something about it that really makes me... It feels like, especially 9 in particular, it feels like it was written in the 90s. And it does, like, and to me, it does have that, old school charm to it that you don't really see anymore. And when it comes to the way it's like, it's so earnest and so and so trying really hard to impress you.
You know what? I can agree with that.
I only hope he has not been defeated before I arrive.
Indeed, you have a long-standing.
Is it weird that I can sometimes mistake Shinjuku for Shao Kahn with how he looks in this state?
No, I can see
He's
that.
got the same hairdo.
Yeah, he does actually.
Facial structure.
Yeah, the outfit is actually pretty similar. Yeah.
We will see, Shujinko. I will meet you on the island.
Just pray you don't take a decade to
And
get
there he goes.
Bye.
But
Gotta go
yeah,
fast.
Pedro.
Oh, hey, Damashi.
I returned to you because I sense that some change has taken place. You are different in some way.
Yes,
Older.
Zordon.
I have undergone a spiritual cleansing. The warrior knight.
That's code for I aged like hell.
Seriously, he
At
sounds
least this
like,
time there wasn't peace.
this guy sounds like Zordon.
I get the idea they wanted to be...
All of us. In that case, all of us.
Has been cleansed from my soul.
Right?
Hold on this. I'll get to you.
Wait, yeah, Damashi said it was unfortunate.
Allows you to enter realms otherwise inaccessible to other beings.
Well,
that is
great
true.
job breaking it.
How convenient.
So what you're saying is that all that training was pointless. In fact, it just set him back more. Like,
So you go. See, he's literally saying right now, Dips, too much pure energy is dangerous.
Again, you know what these remind me, Jova? Those horror movies that have the character expositively say, "Oh, look, it seems I have enough time to go to this location," and then they accidentally bump on their head, and when they wake up, we realize it's almost too late.
like honestly, it's to a point where I'm almost starting to feel sorry for Shinjuku with how much he screws up. Like,
To be fair, Damashi probably should have. To be fair, Damashi probably should have told him this earlier.
true.
I will do as you ask.
Okay, they're both idiots.
Pretty much, made for each other. In more ways
Sorry,
than one,
let's wait for
in
the
more
talk.
ways than
But
one,
yeah.
Jova.
But Tio, can this marriage be saved?
No, it can't.
Alright, alright, so now Shujinko has to go to the Netherrealm, so our going to the Mortal Kombat tournament is now cancelled.
Wow.
Well, Taylor, remember, we have to keep things according to canon. Shujinko doesn't show up in the first tournament, so...
Convenient. You know, honestly, it just makes one wonder what was even the point of bringing that up in the story at all? What, just so that he could come across Nighthawk?
Oh, hey, Raiden.
Oh!
Nightwolf,
Raiden.
Jova. I understand Shujinko, but, be more respectful of the other characters.
No, that was legit mine bad. Night Wolf.
Lord Raiden, I am Shujinko. I am the It was I who...
Weird. I've never heard of you.
think not. A champion of the Elder Gods would possess the might of 10 warriors and could fight with his eyes closed. It is highly unlikely that you possess such abilities.
Raiden, you're an ass.
Well, all that being said, Tio, shouldn't this raise some warning bells that Raiden is apparently not aware of this supposedly highly important mission from the Elder Gods cast down to Shinjuku?
I thought the mission was going to be, you must plug in your eye toy so we can see that you're doing this mission with your eyes closed, as Raiden has just said.
No, that would be impossible. But seriously, though, like, you would think Shinjuku would say, but wait, you're one of these gods, shouldn't you know about this mission that Damashi sent to me? And then if Raiden said, wait, who's Damashi? The jig should have been up.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a little too convenient now, aren't we?
Especially considering how Raiden has been an Elder God in between 4 and 5.
Hell, Raiden's supposed to be smarter than this. Shouldn't he have been questioning it from the get-go? It's just, but, nah. Oh, wait, let me guess. This story is to show how Raiden learned humility and to be
It
wise.
gets worse from that, Jova.
There you go.
What, it turns out he forgets this all happened later?
No, not even that. You'll see in due time.
It's more so the fact that Mortal Kombat is set. Remember, Raiden died at the beginning of this game. However, he's still playable. Now you're probably wondering, wait, how? That's because the Raiden in this game, not this one, because this is still MK1 Raiden that we're fighting right now. The Raiden in this game is actually an evil, corrupted Raiden who decided to just take matters into his own hand. Fuck it then. I'll just.
And guess which version they stick with for Armageddon.
Why? Why is there an evil clone of Raiden all of a sudden? Where did he come from?
No, it's supposed to be a reincarnation of sorts.
Oh. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, if just have him reincarnate as the Raiden people know and love.
Maybe that's what the... Well, if it helps you, Jova, that's what the reboot does.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reboot was pretty much meant to be a big, okay, let's back up and clean this mess up button.
No, that's the thing, Jova. Like I said, the opening movie of Armageddon is so meta, it's quite amazing. Like, it literally starts by saying, because of the amalgamation of so many warriors in one place, the space-time continuum starting to get unstable. Cheeky, aren't you, John?
Well, and Ed, I guess.
proceedings.
Oh, and this is what tells Raiden to look over the tournament and... Oh, don't you see, guys? Shinjuku's the reason for that. How great! Praise him and all that.
Gladly assist you.
Thank you, Shujinko. Good luck.
Yeah, this is bad when it comes to Raiden because it kind of undermines his own, figure as a wise mentor for Liu Kang.
It's Dio, character is hated first, but then immediately within a few minutes of meeting them. We are starting to reach Gary Stu levels with Shinjuku.
Oh no, I think we're being there for a long while now.
Again, that's why we have an ending in 10 where Cassie kills Shujinko.
Okay. Honestly, at first I was just indifferent to Shinjuku, but I can definitely see at this point why people would have hated his guts at this point. He is just a waste of space, but one we're supposed to praise because, look, guys, it's thanks to him that the original Mortal Kombat games went the way they did.
Praise be.
Yeah, some bland guy.
Yes.
That's not to say that you can't do this sort of plot well. They just haven't. And how are we able to...
It's the ambition, Joe. I get the idea behind this to find a cool way to tie all the previous games, in a more cohesive narrative by looking at something what's going on behind the scenes. It's just that they chose some of the worst, type of narrative to do that.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe the story of this game is tone deaf. Don't get me wrong, they had good intentions, but a lot of it rings as truly tone deaf.
And for that matter, Jova, again, look at for how long this has been going. They really believed they wanted to make this as detailed and big as much as they could.
That's why...
And again, mind you, they stuck most of it on the tutorial mode. They must have really been banking on people loving this story to put up with this.
That's why I still appreciate it on some level despite its problems, because I love how ambitious and sincere it is.
Oh yeah, it is definitely ambitious and sincere.
Just misguided. Just horribly misguided, like we
Hey,
said.
Scorpion, you look a bit fatter.
I have no knowledge.
I guess by for all the time he said suckers, at some point someone gave him too many lollipops.
That was one of the better bits of dialogue from that movie, to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, that was literally one of his two lines.
Yeah, sad into suckers.
Well, it's Ed Boon, so you can always rely on him to voice Scorpion really well.
Yeah, I guess. Is he voicing him here?
No. Starting
to
with
be more professional.
The gag leaves is that they get a different voice actor for Scorpion, but the get over a year line is uttered by Ed Boon still.
Yeah.
Although it's not like that for Scorpion's Revenge, it's still Patrick Size who says it.
And he does it well, to be fair.
Oh no, sure.
Also, Scorpion, shouldn't you be going after Sub-Zero more than Quan-Chi at this point in time?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're treating this like it's around the time between 4 and Deadly Alliance.
Which doesn't make any sense. Okay, wasn't John Vogel pretty much... Oh, sorry. Wasn't John Tobias out the door at this point?
Yes.
How we're supposed to be getting better at, maintaining continuity, guys.
That's the thing, Java. Remember, we're gonna have to wait for the reboot where we get actual proper professional writers to handle this.
I mean, don't get me wrong, though. I mean, it unfortunately feels a bit sloppy with how now they're uttering dialogue that legit contradicts when the story is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's most like a case of it punishes you for thinking too much about it.
And that's never a good thing, honestly.
Yep. That's why I don't.
Also, this music.
That's why I don't like a film like Incredibles 2. Whereas the first movie rewarded me for thinking deeper about it. The second movie is the more I think about that movie, the worse it gets.
The more I hate it. Yeah.
Mine. Well, to be honest, I'd rather have that than the movie I hate from the start.
Well, okay. Honestly, James, that's the thing. There are some movies that employ first-time viewing tricks. ways so that, even though they may be crap from the get-go, they can fool you into thinking that they're good or get you into that nice mentality or whatnot.
See, no, here's the thing.
I guess it's a pick your poison situation.
No, here's the thing. Let me break it down. See, here's the thing about Incredibles 2. The problem with Incredibles 2 is that it's a good superhero movie. Not great, but good superhero movie. It's just not a good Incredibles movie. That's the problem. You see,
it's definitely
when you get right out.
Okay, a lot of its problems do stem from how it pretty much spits in the face of continuity. And given how people were waiting years, and I do mean like nearly 2 decades for that movie, essentially, it's very easy to get caught up in the hype of seeing a long-awaited sequel before you start to realize the problems with it.
For me, I was honestly, even on my first view, I didn't even care for it. But here's the basic point of this. See, here's the thing. See, here's the problem. See, for me, it's incredibly disappointing because... Okay, see, here's the thing. If you're going into Incredibles 2 and you just want to see a simple, basic superhero popcorn movie, you'll get it. Like, on that level, it functions. Just don't think about it, because if you try to think about the story makes no sense, but whatever. But the problem is exactly that. The first Incredibles movie was not just a popcorn superhero movie. It was a family drama about social conformism disguised as a superhero movie. The superhero stuff was just there to flower everything. The actual movie itself was actually not about superheroing. It was about this family finally working to function as a unit, as well as some really great commentary on social conformism.
It's the perfect kind of movie. The one that you'll definitely enjoy as a kid for all the action and whatnot, but as an adult, you'll come to respect even more when you notice all the hidden messages and values here. Incredibles 2, not so much. Even if I were a kid back then, I think I would have noticed some of the issues, like the fact that, well, not as much the family get to be in on the action, even though they pretty much got equal action in the first movie. Stuff that I'm not gonna spoil because best save for our commentary. But
it also shows because despite Incredibles being the one movie that people have wanted Pixar to make a sequel to, because even back in 2011 when Cars 2 came out, I remember hearing people even on SSMB saying, "Now Pixar, about that Incredibles sequel. The Incredibles sequel was always something that was always demanded, and now we know." Why Incredibles 2, why it took so long for Brad Bird to finally accept to make one. You can tell he had no idea for one. He never cared much to make one, because first of all, Alan is basically redoing Mr. Incredible's arc from the first movie, basically. Mr. Incredible is basically just doing nothing, just taking care of Jack.
Pretty much.
Basically.
I'd like to see, Pedro, his arc is to realize that family matters.
That was his arc in the first game, though.
He didn't earn that in the first movie.
Also, the fact that, even fathers can be effective parents because, it's not only a woman's job.
That's one thing I heard was a problem with Disney animated movies in 2018 as a whole. To be honest, they're doing character arcs all over again.
My issue, it even goes beyond that though, Dwebs. Here's the thing about even if you took away the arcs themselves and just look at the story itself.
Wait, hold on, I have to ask this. Hey, Scorpion, if you had a sword all this time, why didn't you use that during the first tournament?
Because I forgot I had it.
Okay, I forgot exactly when they did introduce it, but it is still part of his moveset along with his kunai with chain.
Anyway, back to what you were saying, Pedro.
Yeah, because that's the thing, Jeff. Even the plot itself is so poorly constructed. That's one thing I will give the other movies that you mentioned is that at the very least the plot itself. Like, you can talk about the character arcs, but let's just talk about the plots themselves. Do the plots at the very least function on a basic level? They do. Not Incredibles 2 though. Incredibles 2, if literally has a plot that literally makes no sense. The villain only loses because she's a moron.
Remember, Pedro, we had to rush Incredibles 2 out so that we could give Toy Story 4 the love.
But Jova, Incredibles 2 came out 18 years later. How the hell was this rushed?
Okay, here's the thing. Apparently, during the development of Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4...
the release dates got switched around.
Oh, really?
See, originally Incredibles 2 was supposed to come out in 2019, and Toy Story 4 was supposed to come out in 2018.
Oh.
But because they thought that Toy Story 4 would be the bigger winner, they switched the two around, and thus Incredibles 2 had to rush its development. Which
And
would explain a lot of the problems.
And to be honest, that's partly why if you forced me to watch either Incredibles 2 or Toy Story 4, I'd watch Incredibles 2 because at the very least, you know, I mean, you give Toy Story extra time to think of a better story, and that's the one you come up with.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. As Jova will argue, that didn't even succeed at that for Toy Story 4, but that's another thing altogether.
That's
because
that's the point, though.
Like I said,
well, damn. I will take Incredibles 2 10 times over Toy Story 4, but that said, I'm willing to attribute the rust nature to a lot of the story problems. Not all of them. There were still some weird story things. Like, I'll just say what a lot of people are saying. Why did Incredibles 2 need to start right where the first one ended?
Yeah.
Because apparently people didn't like Rise of the Underminer.
I was about to mention, I get that maybe canonizing Rise of the Underminer might not be the best thing to do. But I don't know, something like tongue-in-cheek, like saying that it happened off screen and it cuts
to be honest,
a couple of years later.
I mean, to be honest, one of my biggest issues with Incredibles 2, to be honest, wasn't the plot or anything. It was, sadly, the person, Helen Hunter, the one who played Mrs. Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, here's my thing, though. To explain, literally, the film starts like seconds after the first one, and Mrs. Incredible sounds like she's aged 20 years.
Well, that's because she literally has the actress. But that's the thing. That's the thing. Let me just finish.
It was a few seconds after.
This is why I said, okay, just say they beat the Underminer. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, it was incredibly underwhelming having them just fail against the Underminer.
Let me just put it up real quick. Remember, by her own admission, the villain wouldn't have been able to achieve her goal. By his own admission, the villain's brother wouldn't have been able to bring superheroes back into legality if it wasn't for her technology helping him. Meaning, all she had to do to achieve her goal of superheroes not being legalized was to say, "No, brother, I disagree with you. So sorry, no go." There you go. Movie over.
That simple though.
Well, yeah. According to the movie, yes.
Because people disagree with shit all the time, and they still do it.
I don't think you're understanding my point at all, Dwebs, but whatever.
And then deceived me into believing Sub-Zero was their murderer.
You don't know this yet! This is before the first tournament!
Do you have any evidence to prove that, Mr.
Present
Scorpion?
evidence.
Okay. We literally just had a cutscene with Raiden that confirms that this is before the first tournament. So what the hell? Does this mean that Scorpion is going to have amnesia and forget it? Because, again, I played the original Mortal Kombat. He sure didn't seem to mention a goddamn Quan-Chi killing his family.
Joe, one question before we go.
Yeah.
If Scorpion ever played an Ace Attorney game, how far do you think he'd get through it based on what you've seen of this guy?
It depends on how much.
I get the idea that his special objection will be throwing the coolant with Shade and asking to get over here, which means a lot of dead prosecutors.
Actually, he wouldn't win the trial because he'd be sent to prison for mass murder.
Implying he would have killed the guards trying to take him there.
Here, Dibs, let me put it in my point in a simpler way that you'll understand. Let's say both of us are recording something from the channel, and I'm the one recording the audio. Let's say I secretly want to sabotage the playthrough that we're doing. I can just say to you, "No, Dibs, I'm not giving you the audio." That way you won't be able to. There you go. See, that's what she had to do. She just had to say, "No, brother, I'm not gonna help you make superheroes legalized." And then the brother will go, "But I need you to do this." Well, tough shit. I don't agree with that. I don't want superheroes legalized. See, and there you go.
Keep in mind,
the villain wins.
You could threaten her.
That's not really a good thing, is it?
also, Jibs, he wouldn't have done that. But what Pedro was saying is that literally, he could not have done it without her. A lot of the tech that
By his own admission, for the
came
record.
from
By his own admission, for the movie literally establishes it. It's not me making this up. The movie says it. Go ahead.
Anyway, tune in next time for when Shujinko hopefully will less interfere with the space-time continuum of the real game.
See
Oh
ya.
God, maybe this
See
is
ya.
all.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's messing with it while also
Teo,
not.
I figured it out,
messing
Teo.
with it.
I figured it out, Teo. Shujinko is responsible for Armageddon. This is exactly why the space-time continuum is all fucked up in Armageddon.
Somehow this is still Chronica's fault to some degree. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.